Big Bird. I love toys, man. What's interesting, though, is this is a cassette player. Alright, so then theoretically, I can listen to Aerosmith on Big Bird. Charles Philip Lazarus, I think I'm saying that right, in the late 40s, he founded what would eventually become Toys R Us. It didn't start off that way. He later developed it more and more into becoming the Toys R Us, in the 50s. It was a great time for him to start a toy store company. America was becoming more commercialized, I guess. And, this was around the time of the baby boom. That's kind of where I got it from. Toys R Us originally more specialized in baby stuff, and then eventually they went to toy stuff. And obviously now a lot more people think, when they think Toys R Us, the other store they think of is Babies R Us, which is kind of like a modern version, sort of what his original store was. But, he shifted it more to toys because that was becoming a bigger thing than babies, as the baby boom kind of faded a little bit away. The 80s, though, was probably when Toys R Us hit it off the most. This is when they became, the biggest toy company ever. It was rising in the 60s and 70s and stuff like that, but the 80s, man, when a lot of people think Toys R Us, I think their biggest, profit time ever was in the 80s. And this was also around the time they started selling video games, so that was a big, selling point, hey, go to Toys R Us, we got video games here. The 90s, though, it was still massive. They were doing more grand projects around this time, just all this stuff, but at the same time, I'd say the biggest factor of the 90s was competition to Toys R Us. And obviously, this got a lot worse in the late 2000s, 2010s, because of Amazon, but the 90s, we started getting all these other toys, like KB Toys and stuff like that. There's all these other toy stores. And not to mention, the 90s is when video game stores started becoming big. In the 80s, the only places to really get video games were rental stores, or if you wanted to buy a game, it'd be at Toys R Us, without a question. And if people just wanted to get video games, they would go to a game store. They wouldn't go to they would rather go to a GameStop, The 90s was also a sad time because Charles, he retired from the company in 1994. Not only that, but in 1998, for the first time in forever, it felt like Toys R Us wasn't the biggest toy seller in America. It was actually Walmart in 1998. It really sucks, but 1998 was also a pretty big year for them, as they started their own website and everything like that, so a good thing and a bad thing, I guess. Around this same time, in 2001, Toys R Us launched their main toy store in Times Square, which was over 110,000 square feet. This was their main area, and it's probably most famous for the Toys R Us Ferris wheel that was, I think, 3 stories high, which is crazy. And honestly, there's not much too notable stuff after that, not counting the store closing. I think around 2014 is when they started going really downhill. But this is, I think the Times Square thing is the last super notable big thing, And also speaking of, the Times Square place shut down in 2015 or 16, which gets to a bigger point: Toys R Us closing. But before I fully get to this, I need to share my experience with Toys R Us. Now, I'm not 40 years old, okay? I was born in 2011, so, I obviously missed out on all getting the new Nintendo games, the new NES games at stores. I would never experience that. Where my Toys R Us nostalgia lies is in the 2010s. Yeah. When most people think of Toys R Us in the 2010s, it's, them filing for bankruptcy on 2017 or whatever, and fully closing in 2018. But I have a lot of nostalgia for that place still kind of being up, even though that was when they were going down, To me, Toys R Us was always a place that was more than just, we sell toys. It was the toy store. If I wanted to get some more obscure toy, okay? I remember getting this I remember getting a bunch of these Scooby-Doo play sets, okay? There was Shaggy, and there was the Mystery Machine, and there was, Fred and Scooby and all of them, and they were articulated and everything. And that was the only place you could get them. And they were a little more obscure, you know what I mean? And when you're that young, it's just more magical. Because Amazon, I didn't really even know Amazon that much. It was just all what's in front of my eyes at this store, I remember them having, SpongeBob Mega Bloks toys, which again, yeah, you could find on Amazon, but those weren't at any actual stores. Back then, the main way I got toys was probably from Walmart or Target. They were always just closer. The closest Toys R Us to me was 20-something minutes away at least. And Walmart and Target were, 10-ish, 15. So they weren't as far away, so they were the easiest way to get toys. But man, Toys R Us also just have that atmosphere. You know what I mean? It felt like this world of toys, which I know it kind of sounds obvious, but I can't describe it, okay? I don't know, I'm about to say the white rooms and stuff of it, but That makes me sound insane, like my friend Tyler, you know. But anyways, Toys R Us had this atmosphere. It was white, but it had all these colors in it still, and it always had this inviting, fun atmosphere that just really appealed to me at the time. It's the same reason why I have a lot of nostalgia for Party City as well. I know that sounds strange, but the atmosphere of it just always, you know, going to Toys R Us at like 7 p.m. There's not too many people there. That is like perfect nostalgia. That is such a perfect place to be. It's like a sanctuary, like a Toys R Us sanctuary. Also, when it's a bit cold out, I live in Florida, so it's always hot. When it's like around November, December, 7 p.m., Toys R Us, it's a bit chilly outside. Oh my god, I cannot describe that. It is so weird, but that is the best thing, quite possibly ever. Speaking of things that are the best thing ever, I definitely got some Yo Gabba Gabba toys from Toys R Us, so, you know, don't have to worry, don't be alarmed. I got some Yo Gabba Gabba toys there, 100%. Even if I didn't, which I think is a 100% impossibility, because I swear some of the toys I had, they never even sold at Target or Walmart or anything. I at least looked at the toys there. I have this weird memory in my mind of me walking down, like, this little section of a store, and then having all of these Yo Gabba Gabba toys. Which obviously they don't even have anymore because the show ended like 10 years ago. And that's like, boom, because a lot of those toys are like really very expensive on eBay and stuff now. And honestly, that memory might be from a Toys R Us. Another thing too, a lot of people hate Jeffrey the Giraffe's 2010s design. I think happened in like 2007, 2008. So, Jeffrey the Giraffe is the mascot of Toys R Us, which is always kind of cool to me. Like, it's like a giraffe. You wouldn't really expect it as a mascot for a place, but Jeffrey the Giraffe was always like super cool. And a lot of people really hate the 2010s design. In my opinion, this one in like 2000 or 2001, where he's just real giraffe, 100% way worse. But I get where they're coming from. It's kind of too simple. But at the same time, I have a lot of nostalgia for this design. I think if they were to combine, like make the ultimate Jeffrey the Giraffe design, combine this one they used in 1999 and the 2007-8 one. Okay, because I think he has the perfect, like, cartoony giraffe features in the 2010 one, but he's more expressive and has a bit more detail in, like, the 1999 one. So I feel like that'd be, like, a perfect blend. What can I say? I have a lot of nostalgia for that Jeffrey design. I remember being outside of, like, a Toys R Us or something like that, or inside, and seeing Jeffrey on, like, a bench or something like that, sitting right next to him. So awesome. But I think the biggest, most big, like, memory that keeps sticking in my brain is in 2017, whenever the Captain Underpants movie came out. The movie I got all of the merchandise for, I was so hyped for. I remember even that Christmas I got all of the Captain Underpants figures and stuff, except for one. The first figure I got of the set, it's like Captain Underpants, George Harold, Poopy Pants, and the Turbo Toad, sort of. I didn't get Captain Underpants for Christmas. No, I actually got Captain Underpants a little earlier than that. That's actually why one of the other figures was because I had Captain Underpants. You want to know where I got it? It's Toys R Us. I do not have a picture of it, but I do, like, specifically remember walking into Toys R Us, seeing this, like, shelf in the front middle of the store, had all of this Captain Underpants stuff in it, like a banner. They had pens, they had the action figures, they had the plushies. I think they might have even had some of the books there to advertise it. It was all stuff for this movie, and it was so decked out with Captain Underpants stuff, and it was awesome. Because typically, if it was like a movie that I like, I don't know, like Toy Story 4, one that I don't really like that much, it wouldn't be that cool. Captain Underpants is one of, if not my favorite movie. Honestly, no, it is my favorite movie of all time. The only one that really rivals it for me is a Goofy movie. You know. The hype I had getting all that merchandise and seeing that movie in theaters is unmatched to this day. Alright, so this is the same Captain Underpants figure I got at Toys R Us 7 years ago. This is like a Toys R Us artifact. This was from Toys R Us. But I specifically remember getting that Captain Underpants action figure, and then going to Olive Garden right after. There was one like across the street from the Toys R Us, and I got Captain Underpants action figure with me while at Olive Garden. That is an experience I'm going to take with me to the grave, and honestly all of this Captain Underpants movie Toys R Us stuff. But probably the biggest reason Toys R Us closed down is because of Amazon. People are just going to buy toys. Well, for one, they could buy them at Walmart and Target. And plus, at Walmart and Target, there's groceries and other stuff there, too. So it's like an all-in-one store. But Amazon really, like, made Toys R Us. It gave them, like, a really bad, like... They never recovered from Amazon, pretty much. What's interesting, though, in the early days of Amazon, like in the early 2000s, Toys R Us was like they were like a collaborator with Amazon. They would offer their toys on the Amazon side. They had like a whole collab thing going, and then this whole big lawsuit a few years later. So they had this whole big feud, and it kind of all fell out. And then Amazon just pretty much shut down Toys R Us in 2018, which is, I guess I got to get into that now. First really sad thing is Charles Lazarus passed away in early 2018. He lived to be like 94, 95 years old, and that is incredible. That is a great life, especially for someone born in the 1920s. I'm pretty sure he was a World War II veteran as well. So, you know, he's part of the baby boom, you know. He was just incredible. If it wasn't for him, obviously, Toys R Us would never be the same way it was. And what I've heard, he was a great boss, he was a super nice guy. Incredible, but it's very sad that he passed away. Rest in peace. What also sucks is that same year, Toys R Us shut down. I think it was announced that it was closing. Filed for bankruptcy, I think, in 2017, but I think it was announced that it was closing like a week before his death, so that's just it's pretty sad way to go. Like, the biggest company that was the biggest part of his life, and it was closing down right before he died, so, you know, but closing down Toys R Us was a really upsetting thing. The whole internet was upset. Everybody's nostalgia just kicked in like crazy. For me, though, I didn't have nostalgia for Toys R Us at that point. I was 7 years old when it shut down, so to me, Toys R Us was still just a store. Like, yeah, I liked going there, and I had great, you know, stories to tell, you know, but I didn't have nostalgia. Like, I wasn't reminiscing about this. And I was still really upset. I could never go to Toys R Us again. You know, it was a super big deal breaker to me in 2018, you know. It just sucks that one of, if not my favorite store ever, was shutting down. It shut down 2018, but again, thankfully, the whole internet was so upset by this, and people all the time being like, wait, there's one more Toys R Us left in the world, or, oh, like, exploring the old locations, you know, reminiscing. I'm really glad the whole internet, they kind of made it go off a bang, not a whimper, I guess. I really do miss Toys R Us. That whole gushing about the atmosphere and getting Captain Pants toys, the Scooby-Doo toys, all of that, the Yo Gabba Gabba toys. It just, you know, it really sucks that it shut down. Honestly, though, I think, like, the magic of, like, going into Toys R Us kind of influences me today. Whenever I go into, like, an old, like, retro video game store or some old, like, VHS, DVD movie store, I feel that same magic of seeing all of this stuff in this cool atmosphere, and I gush, and I get excited, and I'm just, you know, like, oh, like, look at all this stuff. Look at all this cool, more obscure stuff that you can only find online. You know, but they have it at this store. I feel that same way that I felt with Toys R Us, so you could say very much that Toys R Us did change my life, and that's pretty much with everything, I guess, but, like, back to the example, Toy Story 4, that didn't change my life. Toys R Us changed my life, man. Could argue it's a big reason I'm into all this merchandise and DVDs and movies and stuff today. It's because Toys R Us had this more obscure stuff, so maybe that's where I got my influence from. Toys R Us still do kind of exist today. Be it though, they're pretty like small. They're in mostly like malls or department stores. I think I did come across like one of these one time in like a Macy's or something like that, or just some department store. They're all right, but they feel like a Walmart or Target toy section. What's all these common toys? I don't know. I had this whole experience where I was all these obscure toys. A lot of people, their memories are just. I remember the place where I used to get toys from. For me, that was the place where I used to get the obscure toys, like the ones nobody talked about. It was like the cool kids club, like of Toys R Us and stuff like that. It was for the cool kids, man. Frankly, I'm glad to be a kid, because I don't want to grow up. I want to be a Toys R Us kid. In conclusion, Toys R Us will always have the biggest impact in my heart and soul. It really feel like changed how I view going to stores and stuff today. I got one of my favorite toys ever from there. Those Captain Pants toys, like, man, that really gave me so much hype for that movie. You know, just all of this stuff. Toys R Us to me was the coolest. It was cooler than Disneyland or Disney World, I guess, because you know I live in Florida. We got the better one. Stupid California, they got the tiny castle. We got the huge castle, you know. Oh yeah, Toys R Us. I will miss it. Does it need to be back exactly? No, I don't really collect toys as much now. I collect old movies and games and stuff like that. But its memory will live on forever in my it's gonna be in my mind forever and still influences me today. I love you, Toys R Us. I'll never forget you. Man, remembering Toys R Us was fun. Remembering Toys R Us? Good times. Alright, so if you don't mind me, I'm gonna go listen to some Dream On Big Bird.